My name is Dory Frankel, and I welcome you to Community Forum. It's my pleasure this evening to have with me Attorney Michael Chinman, who is running for District Attorney in Norfolk County. Welcome, Michael, and thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to read a little biography of Michael so that you can, our viewers will know a little bit more about you. Michael Chinman is an attorney and a former assistant DA who lives in Milton with his 4 children. He's seeking the Democratic nomination for Norfolk County District Attorney. Mr. Chinman is a graduate of Middlebury College in Vermont, who received his law degree at Boston University School of Law in 1988. While there, he was editor-in-chief of the BU Law Review and received the G. Joseph Toro Distinguished Scholar Award. Upon graduating, Mr. Chinman clerked for federal judges in Boston and Providence before joining the Boston law firm of Goodwin, Procter & Hoare in 1989. He worked in their trial department until 1992, when he left the firm to become assistant district attorney in the Middlesex District Attorney's Office. Mr. Chinman has worked at every level of the district attorney's office and has been the lead prosecutor in hundreds of trials. Starting as an appeals prosecutor in 1992, he was responsible for the most serious cases in both the appeals court and Supreme Judicial Court. He then moved to the district court trial team, where he supervised the prosecutions in 2 district courts. In 1989, he was promoted to serve as the Superior Court trial prosecutor. For the last 7 years of his career, Mr. Chinman was assigned to the Child Abuse Unit, prosecuting the worst crimes committed against children, including sexual molestation and shaking baby cases. In 2009, he achieved the first, and so far the only, successful prosecution under Massachusetts Jessica law. After 15 years of standing up for victims and their families, Mr. Chinman stepped down from his position at the end of this past March in order to concentrate his efforts on his election to run for Norfolk District Attorney. Mr. Chinman is running against Senator Michael Morrissey and State Representative Joseph Driscoll for the Democratic nomination in the September 14th primary election in Norfolk County. John Coffey, an attorney, is running as an independent, and the Republican Party has no candidate. Welcome, Michael Chinman. Thank you for coming on the show. What inspired you to seek the seat of Norfolk District Attorney?
Well, it evolved over time, but I really felt that it was time for a prosecutor to be the district attorney in Norfolk County. Norfolk County has an unfortunate tradition, I think, of electing politicians to be the district attorney. And there's a big difference if it's handled by a prosecutor than a politician. There's 2 politicians running now for the seat, and there's me. I was a prosecutor for 15 years. I think I'm going to bring a different perspective, a different ability to the office as a prosecutor. And that's what I want to do. I've stood up for victims for 15 years. I want to do that for the Norfolk District Attorney's Office.
And so you left your position as an assistant DA in order to do this?
I completely resigned at the end of March.
Yeah.
I've been doing this full time. So it's been an eye-opening experience. I didn't used to be in favor of term limits because I thought it was a way of saying, you know, the voters aren't smart enough to figure out. But it's been eye-opening to see the benefits and the advantages that office holders have who can get paid as an office holder and run for a different post, and the tremendous advantage of having staff and people to do things. That's not what I have right now, but it's
continuing to use the same coffers, it seems.
You mean the campaign funds? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The politicians I'm running against, they both have sizable campaign accounts. One of them has $500,000 in his campaign account.
That's a lot of money to be able to spend on being elected to a different office, and an entirely different office at that.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. What makes you as a prosecutor a better choice than a politician? Both of the other candidates that are seeking the Democratic nomination are attorneys.
Well, it's a legal requirement. You have to be a lawyer to be district attorney.
They are attorneys. I know Morrissey is, works in his own private law firm as well. So that, so he's an attorney, but on the opposite side.
Well, no,
to
Senator
some
Morrissey
degree.
is a civil lawyer. He has his own law firm, and he does civil practice.
Right, but he's not a prosecutor.
He's not a prosecutor.
He's not a prosecutor.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you know, for 15 years, I've been standing up for victims, and working with victims changes you, brings you a different vantage point. And victims of serious crime, not a single one of them wanted to be part of the criminal justice system. They come into the DA's office bewildered, confused, sometimes really damaged by the crime that's been inflicted on them. And it's the DA's job, the DA's office's job, to take them in, tell them what's going to happen, be honest with them, and then to prosecute that case against the wrongdoer, to seek justice. That's what the DA needs to do, is seek justice.
And it can be a very lengthy process, too, for those victims, can't it?
It almost always is.
Yeah.
It almost always is.
Yeah.
A serious felony after indictment, if it goes to trial within a year, that's pretty quick. It often goes on for much longer than that.
Yeah. And the pain doesn't stop for the victims in the meantime.
Not for that year, and not for sometimes lifetimes.
Yeah.
Victims are strongly, largely, powerfully impacted by the crime that's inflicted on them. And I think it's a difference. If you have somebody who's done it, who's prosecuted these cases, who's put violent felons in prison, and I've done that scores of times. I've had hundreds of trials. There's hundreds of indictments with my signature on them. I'm not learning how to do this, I've done it. And it's a big difference if you know how to do it, and you've done it, and you can do it again, than someone who talks about doing it.
How does the structure of the DA's office in Norfolk work? There's the DA who's the head prosecutor. What's under him or her?
Well, that's up to the DA. There's nothing defined about how that has to be. So each DA can determine. Usually there's a first assistant who is a very experienced prosecutor. But you know, the corner office, if you don't have the experience, if you haven't done it before, then it's hard for me to see how you can make the decisions. You have to rely on the people below you to make those decisions. Yeah. And if you're the top person, you should have the experience. There shouldn't be a case in the office that you can't handle and haven't handled before to make those decisions. Because one of the most powerful decisions the district attorney has to make is whether to prosecute. Sometimes the decision not to prosecute is the real job of the DA. And I've made those decisions. My last 7 years, I was a Superior Court trial DA for 10 years, the last 7 years in the child abuse unit. And we don't go forward on every child abuse prosecution. And there's a variety of reasons why we don't. But that decision not to go forward is a powerful one. It's one that the DA has to make in every case. Should we go forward or not? And if you haven't done that, if you don't have the experience, what do you bring into that decision?
Well, that's a very good point. It would seem to make sense that a prosecutor be the DA.
Where I come from as a DA, as an ADA, Middlesex County. Middlesex County has a history of electing prosecutors to be the district attorney. I was hired by Tom Riley, then I served under Martha Coakley, and then Jerry Leone. They're all prosecutors. They bring a very different vantage point than a politician. And Norfolk County has elected politicians the last couple DAs, and it makes a big difference. And we've seen in the headlines the difference recently that a case bungled by the DA's office can have profound consequences to other people's lives.